Good day, everyone. Greeting and a warm welcome to everyone joining us from the various corners. Today, we are going to discuss about the topic developing cross-culture communication skills in the globalized world. I'm glad to introduce the speaker of the day, Dr. Denise. Thank you for joining the session, Doctor. So, over to you, Dr. Denise.
Thank you very much. And as my colleague just said, my name is Denis Lifintsev. I am Associate Professor of Kyiv National Economic University, named after Vadim Hetman, Ukraine. So I'm really glad to meet you today virtually and share with you some experience, my expertise in the field of cross-cultural business communication. I believe that it's highly important to develop such skills, to practice them by day, because such skills like cross-cultural communication in business, they can be gained only, I believe, through real interaction with your peers, with your colleagues, with your clients in different cultures, different countries. So I'm glad to be virtually in Zambia today. So it's really a really great opportunity to exchange our ideas and our knowledge. So please feel free to ask any questions in Q&A session, in chat, or just turning on your microphone if it's possible for you. So let me share my presentation. I would try to put my presentation in 50 or 45 minutes to leave some time for a Q&A session. So let me share my screen and start my presentation, my webinar. Just a second, I should do it full screen. Okay. Okay, I hope you see my presentation full screen now. Short delays with the technical issues, but now I believe you see it. So today I would like to to tell you about possible problems, possible barriers that might occur during interaction, business interaction with your international colleagues, and some strategies, some techniques to overcome these problems. Good morning, Dr. Akvendra. Nice to see you. Talking about these major barriers or major problems good morning, that might happen. First, I would like to start with the conditions or trends that increase the need in cross-cultural communication. So why do we all actually need these skills, these competences? Of course, it's globalization. Of course, it's digitalizations, these trends or these factors that make people closer to each other, bring people together. So, of course, we can easily interact now due to globalization and due to because of modern digital technologies like Zoom, like Microsoft Teams, like Skype, etc., etc. We can reach partners or clients all over the world. And of course, the third trend increase in such need in cross-cultural business communication is the growing impact of new people, new generations that are even more open to such international transitions or interactions than the previous generations. The millennials and genders are young professionals entering the market or even operating in the market. They are very flexible. They can easily change location or virtually meet someone from abroad, trying to attract investment, sell good or service to this partner, and so on and so on. So, and of course, we cannot ignore some bad factor, tragic factor, a full-scale war started by Russia in Ukraine, and this horrible tragedy that strikes my country right now. It also influences global supply chains all over the world. It provokes migration wave, so people interact even more. Hundreds of thousands of people or even millions are migrating, changing their locations, and so they actually need to know how to interact with foreigners. So, and now forward to the problems, to possible obstacles. Of course, we should start with the language barrier. And of course, it's the most widespread problem that might happen when you meet your foreign colleague or friend. it might be some problem with the language. I believe that we all are aware that English is the most widespread international language. Of course, we also have French, we have German, we have Spanish, Italian, but still, I believe that knowing English is a must-have competence nowadays, and knowing English just on any level, no matter what kind of your level of English knowledge, still it might help you significantly in international negotiations. And some small recommendation from me, some small advice. Use some local words or phrases when you are meeting your international colleagues. So, for example, this person is from Italy, saying ciao instead of hello or good evening, good morning. It would be really nice, or grazie. Saying a couple of pleasant words in local language might give you some loyalty from your international colleagues that might be helpful for you. The next problem is difference, significant difference in values. I believe that every culture, every country has its own core values that are really important for this specific people. And I believe that on this slide, you can see, for example, the United States example. Considering some huge survey in the United States, we can see that independence and privacy are very important for this particular nation. So, but in every nation, you can see their own core values. And for example, in Zambia, I believe that you have some values that are similar, that are joined for the whole nation. Some values that unite people. And when I go into Zambia, for example, I need to learn a bit more about this culture and these core values to be more flexible in negotiations. These values, they affect the standards of behavior, how people behave in different cultures. And when we talk about interaction, especially about offline, face-to-face communication, you can feel a bit shocked or a bit uncomfortable, let's say more in more widespread situations, you will feel uncomfortable meeting people who behave not like you do, and not like you are used to behave in your everyday life, in even in business negotiations. So, for example, physical interaction, how people actually greet each other, how people sit to each other, how close they stand to each other, and so on. In different cultures, in different, for example, in some Nordic countries, in European Nordic countries, the distance, physical distance between people is pretty high. So people tend to stay further from each other. But in southern countries, in Europe, in America, in Africa, in Asia, not in Asia, okay, maybe in mostly in Southern America, for example, people prefer to stand closer to each other, to give a hug, to shake hands very warmly, even to talk to each other, sitting closely to each other. So these small differences will be your advantage or your problem when you meet someone from abroad. If you are prepared, it will be easy for you to have business negotiations. If you are not prepared, you might feel uncomfortable. So I believe that in Africa, later you will show me what is your normal behavior when you meet your business partner. So you are more you prefer to be closer to a person, to give a hug, to shake hands, or you prefer to keep this distance? So I believe that I know the answer, but still I would like to hear some feedback from you later. Next problem, stereotype thinking. This is a very widespread situation when you know only a few facts about some culture and you are using some stereotypes. You believe that all people, let's say from Africa, are very short-term oriented. There are some there is some data about Africa, for example, that people are very short-term oriented. They don't want to build long-term strategies. But if I'm going to Africa, I need to learn something more about the specific partner I'm going to meet. Maybe this particular person is a long-term oriented person. If you are going to Germany, you need to be ready that the Germans are very punctual. These people prefer to do everything on time. And this is stereotype. But from my experience, I have a lot of partners in Germany, and I know that most of them are very punctual indeed. So it means that we actually need to prepare ourselves and to be punctual with them as well. At the same time, if we are going to some country where people are not that punctual, our own punctuality might be uncomfortable for them. It's okay to be late 5, 10 minutes. So you need to adjust your personal business negotiation style to the culture you're going to interact with. So it's very important not to use only stereotypes. You should start with stereotypes, but it's not all you need. So the next one is the lack of trust. Is the lack of trust. Oh, thank you. For example, in Zambia, we have some comments in chat. Please feel free to add a lot of your comments in chat. I really enjoy reading your thoughts. Here in Zambia, it's strange to hug or stand very close to your workmates, especially if they are in opposite gender. Amazing comment. I really appreciate it because it's very important, by the way, the gender. Yeah. So, as I said in a previous case about this hugging or kissing, just for a second, I come back to this slide. That I love this example. When I came a few years ago to Portugal, to a southern European country, I met some of my colleagues who was from opposite gender. She was a female, and at the first meeting, and she was with her husband, who was my friend and colleague who invited me. So they met me together, and I met this lady for the first time in my life. And first, I gave a hug or I shook hands with my colleague whom I previously met, a male colleague. But then his wife, he approached me and gave me a warm welcome, giving me a kiss on the cheek. So for Portuguese culture, it's quite normal. It's absolutely normal. It's not a problem at all. But still, for Ukrainian culture, it's a bit strange because it's okay to shake hand, it's okay even to give a slight hug, but kissing on the cheek is a bit too much for Ukraine, for the Central Europe, for the West, for the Eastern Europe. So it's a bit too much. But for them, it was okay. So for me, of course, it was also okay. It was normal for them. I was a guest, so etc., etc. But your comment about Zambia is very important because we need to know that, for example, if we are in Africa, if we are Europeans or Asians or Americans and we are in Africa, we need to adjust our way of interacting with people to the local standards. It's just polite, it's just normal. So, of course, and gender differences are very important as well. And the lack of trust, final thing I want to say about barriers, it's a problem. And I believe that it's very, very uh, it's a sad when the situation people don't trust to foreigners considering their nation. For example, here on this slide, you see some examples of nations that are favorable for foreigners to work with. So it means that if I'm choosing my business partner, that under same conditions, I would choose, let's say, Canadians or Germans, and I wouldn't choose some people from other nations that are not that, I don't know, respected or popular or successful and so on and so on. So, but I believe that it's wrong for me as Ukrainian, and I believe for you as Zambians, it might be not really pleasant when there are a few countries that people prefer to work with. So I believe that if I meet a partner, if I see some opportunity in Zambia, it's not a problem for me to work with people from Zambia. If I see some opportunity in India, it's not a problem at all. So if I see something in the United States, it's the same for me. So you shouldn't judge people because of reputation of their country in some ranking. Yeah, you should analyze deeper national culture, corporate culture, and personal culture of the person, no matter his or her nationality. But still, we need to realize that such lack of trust may be a problem. And for me, as Ukrainian, I need to prove that I'm professional uh, let's compare myself with some British guy or German guy. If a company hires a person from Germany or from the UK, we believe that this person must be a professional because their country says for themselves. So it might be challenging for people from some other countries to prove that they are really high class professionals and so on. So these were the possible problems, potential problems, and now let's analyze how can we overcome these problems. What can we do to be more prepared for international business communication with our international colleagues, with our foreign colleagues? So, my first recommendation is to improve cultural intelligence. I believe all of you, you are studying in university, in business school, so you know that it was very popular concept of IQ, intelligence, yeah, intelligence quotient. So, how smart people are. And decades ago, companies selected their employees by evaluating their IQ, their intelligence. Later, the emotional intelligence concept emerged. So it was very important to analyze also how emotionally prepared your candidate is. So how easy for this person is to adjust his or her style to the workmates, to colleagues, to partners on the emotional level. But nowadays, the third concept is very important and popular, the CQ, cultural intelligence. So, how prepared people are in different cultural backgrounds, because we live in a globalized, multicultural business environment, and you can easily meet your colleague from absolutely different culture in your office or among your clients, even inside one continent. For example, you're from Zambia, but if you are meeting your colleague from Morocco or Egypt, it would be also African guy, but it would be quite different. And in Europe, the same, and in Asia, the same. If you are from India, but you are meeting your partner from Japan, so it would be different, different culture, and you need to be ready to deal with the Japanese person in your office. So that's why cultural intelligence is one of the requirements nowadays in large companies and multinational companies, but in domestic companies as well, because our world is globalized furthermore. So, first recommendation is get some basic knowledge, basic understanding of different cultures. In this short webinar, I will not tell you in details all the ideas of most popular concepts, but I would like to briefly highlight you two of them. And the first is the most popular model in cross-cultural management and cross-cultural communication is Geert Hofstede 6D model, 6 dimensions of national cultures that can help you to understand better what kind of people you are going to meet with. So this 6 dimensions, 6 peculiarities of national cultures. First is power distance. Power distance is the distance between those with power and those without power. So, for example, with less power, let's say. So, manager and employee, professor and students, father or mother and children. So it's relatively power. So those who have more power and those who have less power in some particular situation. In some countries, such distance is high. In some countries, such distance is low. And as you see on this map, the dark color countries are countries with large power distance, where the bosses, the managers, are mainly autocratic, so they prefer to be distant from their employees. And light color countries are countries where bosses are, they pretend to be closer to their employees and to work as a team. I believe that this map you see on the screen, it's also it's very, very average number per country. So, for example, if we analyze some country, for example, let's take a look at Mexico in Northern America, pretty dark, but still we analyze that in most Mexican companies, the power distance will be high. But it doesn't mean that if you meet a specific person in Guadalajara or Mexico, and maybe his company will be much more democratic. So you need to analyze deeper. But in general, you need to understand that most Mexican people are mainly, they have more high power distance. So the second dimension is individualism or collectivism, how people prefer to work in teams in their workplace, in their everyday life. So are they more individualistic or more collectivistic? And here you see that light color countries, for example, African continent is more light. So it means that, for example, in Africa, by the way, Ukraine as well, if you see my country on the map, Ukraine is also the same color. So we are mainly collectivistic. And if you take a look at India, for example, the largest democracy in the world by population, so you can see that India is also a collectivistic country. At the same time, when you take a look at the United States or a lot of Western European countries, they are more individualistic. So it means that during negotiations, you need to be ready that people from individualistic countries, they will tend to be more decisive. They would tend to make decisions by themselves, to be more risky, and so on and so on. In collectivistic countries, it's quite opposite. People prefer to work in teams, to talk a bit before making decision, and so on and so on. So it's normal. Both approaches are okay. They're just different, and you need to understand that you need to adjust your style to these situations. Third, masculinity. It's about behavior, it's about traditional values. Are people more masculine? Are they more risky, more achievement oriented, more I don't know, persistent, and so on and so on? Or they're more feminine, they're more calm and polite, so more collaborative. So in some societies, people in light color countries you see on the map, people prefer to be more feminine. They work in teams, they support each other, they are ready to forgive mistakes in business, and so on and so on. And dark color countries are more masculine. You can see Japan, you can see some European Union countries, some African countries, by the way, once again, Southern America, and so on. So people in these countries are more masculine, they are more harsh in business. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that they are more fast, they're quicker, they're more risky, and so on and so on. So you just need to, once again, when you are meeting these people and they're different from you, I believe that it's important to make a step to their direction. So to show that they are playing their style, you are doing business in their style. So it might be important for them to see that you are more or less similar to them. And if they are prepared, if they are polite, step forward to your direction. So they should also analyze your culture and try to be more comfortable for you in business negotiations. And if both sides are doing this, so it might be easier for them to interact. Uncertainty avoidance, how prepared people are to the situations of uncertainty. In some countries, they are very easy going in this situation. So it's easy for them to change their location, company, partners, and so on. Light color countries here. In other countries, people prefer to be more uh, they prefer to work in more certain situations, in clear situations, when they know what will be tomorrow. And if you see on this map, the African continent is pretty light. So it means that you guys are really easy with these situations, dealing with situations of uncertainty. It means that you are not afraid to change something in your life. In contrast, a lot of people in Europe, they prefer to work in situations when they know what's gonna be next. And believe me, they love formalities. We love formalities, not me personally, but a lot of people in the European Union, they rely a lot on formalities, bureaucracy, and so on. So uh, when the rules, when the formalities are comfortable for people, so you need to give them these formalities. You need to prepare information beforehand. You need to be on negotiations using some data, using some documents, and operating some information that will make your partners feel comfortable. At the same time, when you meet a person from a culture with low uncertainty avoidance index, you can easily suggest some venture ideas, some risky ideas, some innovation ideas. So these people would prefer to see some perspectives from you in this regard. So, and fifth out of six dimensions, long-term orientation, how long-term oriented people are. And as I said before, African continent is supposed to be very short-term oriented culture. And if you don't mind, please share in chat. Is it true from your perspective, from your experience? Are African businessmen mainly short-term oriented? It means that they prefer to get income as soon as possible, not to wait for 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. You prefer to get your profit as soon as possible. And once again, it's not good or bad. It's just different in different cultures. Because, for example, in Germany or in Japan, people are afraid of quick results. People prefer to have a long-term strategy. And if you meet a person from these countries or from these cultures, you need to show him perspective, to show that, okay, even if we start earning money together quickly, I can tell you that we're gonna do it in a long-term perspective as well. For example, in 5 years, I know that I also want to work with you. I'm not going to work with you for a couple of months and leave you and then go away. No, it means that I have a strategy. So be ready for such differences. And indulgence, the last dimension here, it's the way people behave, how free people are. Can they afford to do what they want? Not because they are rich or they are poor, but because they have inner freedom. Can we behave like we want? Can we do what we want in our business environment, not only in everyday life, to listen to the music we want, to dress like we want, to behave like we want, to have gestures like we want to do, but still, is it okay for us? Or we are restricted by the rules, or we have some formalities that we need to obey and we cannot break it. So let's take a look how it actually works. At this slide, I believe you see three countries on this slide: India, Ukraine, and Zambia. I believe that this example might be interesting for you. Let's compare, for example, our nations on some dimensions, and with the most focus on Zambia. For example, blue color here is Zambia. And if you see, for example, power distance, first dimension, yeah, 60 out of 100. So it means that you are pretty hierarchical, but not as hierarchical as Ukrainians or Indians. For example, the second dimension, individualism. You can see that you are collectivistic, 35 out of 100 by individualism. So it means okay, Christine. I think economic uncertainties, inflation, etc., that many African nations face may make them lean towards short-term orientedness. I absolutely agree with you, Christine, and I believe that the environment influences our behavior. And exactly why Germans are long-term oriented, or why Germans are, let's say, rely on formalities, because German economy or German situation is very clear. It's like this for decades. They know that their economy is efficient and so on and so on. So they don't want to change anything. But by the way, German economy having a huge problems right now because they rely on formalities, and it's the largest economy of the European Union, but now it has huge problems because of its slowness. I believe that maybe countries that are more short-term oriented, maybe they have now some advantage. But I absolutely agree with your remark here. Thank you very much. So let's analyze, for example, the dimension, long-term orientation, fifth dimension here. You can see Zambia 30. It's not that low, but you see that Ukraine and India is 51. We are absolutely equal here, if we believe to this data. So it means that Ukrainians and Indians are medium-term oriented. Some people are long-term oriented, some short, but talking about Africans, we can see that in Zambia it's smaller. And the last dimension about indulgence, how easily people behave in unusual situations. So you can see that Indians and Ukrainians are more restricted with the rules, are more reliant on formalities, and Zambians are more open people, and you can behave like you want, comparing to other nations. Again, comparing to others, because in cross-cultural business negotiations, you need to compare always, all the time. You cannot say that you are very formal, because you are formal compared to, or you are very hierarchical. You are hierarchical compared to. For example, you see 60 in first dimension is pretty high for Zambia. It means that you are hierarchical, but if you compare it to India or to Ukraine, you can see that you are not that hierarchical at all. So you can check different countries on this Geert Hofstede website, and you can compare Zambia with your neighbors in Africa, for example, with the Southern African Republic, with Guinea, with Egypt, and so on and so on. So, okay, let's move on. And the second approach, I will try to be as quick as possible here. The culture map by Erin Meyer. It's a very popular approach right now. The first concept is a classic one, it's still popular, but it's a classic. It's a pioneering approach, but this one is maybe the most modern, the most popular right now. 8 dimensions. I would briefly tell you about 8. So first is leading, as I said, hierarchical, egalitarian, and for example, I believe that the differences are pretty visible in these societies. If you are meeting a person from egalitarian society, this person will be very open. He or she will try to use some friendly manner of communication. And if you meet a hierarchical society representative, so this particular person will be much more formal with you. And I believe, as I said before, if I want to be successful, I would try to adjust my personal style to his or her style to get more loyalty from this person. The second dimension is communication, high context or low context. It's very interesting dimension, because high context cultures are cultures that pay a lot of attention to formalities, to the position in a company, to the status, to the reputation, to tradition, and so on. So if you are meeting a person from a high context culture, and for example, he is a CEO, or I don't know, let's vice president or a head of the department, and you are not a managerial position owner, so it's a mistake. You need to send an equal person to this person. So if he is a department manager, you need to send the department manager to him or her. And if he is a president of a company, you need to send the president, because if you are sending a lower position person, your partner can be a bit offended. He will feel that you show not enough respect. But if we talk about low context cultures, a lot of European cultures are low context cultures. They don't care too much about this status and so on and so on. So you can send just a professional who has a responsibility to conduct these negotiations. That would be enough. Professional with such obligations, so it's okay. But I believe that in Africa and in Asia and in Southern America and in Southern Europe as well, the context, the status, the position, it means a lot. So you need to understand what country you are going to, or even having a virtual call to this country. So you need to understand, is it important or not important for these people to see that they are equals, let's say equals in quotations, yeah. And I have a question for you as well. It's very important because from my experience and from my knowledge, Africa is very high context region. So, interpersonal relationship. Could you please share in chat if you are choosing a business partner or if you are choosing an employee to your company, is it important good interpersonal relationship? Is it important for you that a person is a pleasant for you as a human being, not as a professional? Would you hire your, let's say, relative or a person from your community or a person who has recommendation from your friends, or you would prefer to hire a professional, no matter his personal, I don't know, reputation? So please, if you don't mind, could you share in chat? So the next one is evaluating. So how people give direct negative feedback. In some societies, it's okay to say that the product isn't good, the presentation isn't prepared enough, the work is done on a low level, directly, straight to the face. But in other societies, it's supposed to be very rude and unacceptable. I know that in India, we had a conversation with Dr. Rahmendra, for example, many times that, for example, in India, it's very rude to say directly in the face that something is bad. In such societies, people give indirect negative feedback, and you need to read between the lines that your product is not good enough, it's not satisfying for your partner, so you need to understand it. And at the same time, in the direct societies, you shouldn't be offended by a pretty rude comment from your partner. So he doesn't want to offend you. He wants to be very direct and simplify everything, to say that the presentation is boring and not interesting. So, okay, so I need to just improve it next time, for example. Deciding top down, the manager decides everything and gives instructions, or consensual. You gather a group, you analyze everything, you make decision all together. In different societies, it's different. This trusting. The next one is trusting, task-based or relationship-based. As you see here, in some societies, you can earn trust by building your professional reputation. If you have good track record of your success, if you have a lot of success stories, if you are a well-known professional, you will get contract, you will get money, you will get invitations, you will get all you need in business. But in other societies, for example, in China, you need to have good interpersonal relationship to get real trust from your business partners. So you need to build your personal reputation. It's as important as professional or even more important than professional. What is better? It's hard to say. I believe that it's important to have professional reputation, because if you are also only a friend to someone, your friend can help you at the beginning, but then he will say that, sorry, but you're not that good in business, so I cannot lose money just helping you. I will just better help you outside the office, not inside the office. So I believe that task-based is a bit better. Scheduling. How do you treat your time? Linearly or it's flexible for you? In some societies, Germany is a great example here. The planning is very, very precise. It's very specific. So if you are planning to have a meeting on Friday at 2 p.m. Central European time, the meeting should be held exactly that moment and not a minute later. But in other societies, like, for example, in Brazil or let's say Mexico or Spain, the planning is more flexible. You can move your meetings, you can be a bit late. Of course, it's not like that. It's against stereotypes. Not all Spanish people are that relaxed. A lot of them are business focused. I have business communication with a Spanish lady, and she is super punctual. She's always on time. She is very rational, but she works in a huge company, so it's good, normal for her to have such meetings. But when you are meeting to drink some beers or some tea with your Spanish partner, so it's okay to be a bit late. It's okay to be a bit flexible. So they like it. And two last positions, disagreeing. In some societies, it's okay to be confrontational on some normal issues, on business-related questions with your bosses. In other societies, it's unacceptable. You need to avoid confrontation. And the last dimension in this culture map is persuading. In some societies, like the American one, learning by doing is a normal approach. So you are a young professional, you enter the office and you are given some task to do, some, I don't know, something you need to complete quickly. And you are learning by making mistakes, by asking help from your advisors, senior peers, and so on. So you're learning by doing. In other societies, like German one, first you need to learn information, you need to get prepared, and only after you are allowed to do some real tasks, some real work. So it's quite different here. You need to be ready for such differences as well. And I see some information in chat. Let me take a look. Grace, good morning. Does this meeting have certificate of attendance? Again, formalities. I believe you should have such certificate, but it's better to ask the organizers. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. And once again, briefly, I want to show you some comparison by countries. So, for example, if we talk about communication, you can see that Germans and Americans are very low context. They care about business focused, and Chinese are more concentrated on relationship. And for example, scheduling, the last one, you can see that Germans are very linear and the Chinese people are more flexible. So it's up to you to decide what's your personal style, but I believe that we can learn from different cultures and take the best for ourselves. And the final part of my short presentation today, approaches to effective or safe communication, both virtual online or face-to-face or online. So my final remarks or advice here, first of all, avoid ethnocentrism. What is ethnocentrism? It's the belief that our personal culture, our personal norms of behaviors are, let's say, normal and others are strange, but it's absolutely different. You are just different from others. If you believe that, let's say, German people are very boring, they're so rational, they're so pragmatic, they're so business focused, let's say, they're so unusual for you, but it's okay for them, it's normal for them. At the same time, but these German people will evaluate, let's say, Ukrainians or Zambians or Indians, they would say, oh, why are they not that punctual, not that rational, not that pragmatic, not that business focused? They are strange. So you see, we believe that we are strange, that we are normal, others are strange, but in fact we need to accept people like they are. We need to understand that these people are okay and they're just different from you, and we need to analyze that, what we can do to make these people feel more comfortable and want to work with us. Avoid ambiguity. What is ambiguity? Is situations when you can actually offend your colleagues by using some gestures or some jokes that wouldn't be unpleasant for them. So be careful, especially with humor and with non-verbal communication, like gestures or hugging or kissing and so on and so on. Become a small talk master. What is small talk? I believe it's one of the very important items here, very important recommendations to know how to be an interesting person in a room. So a small talk is a short conversation before business negotiations. Uh, you almost always, you have, I don't know, a couple of minutes or even, I don't know, half an hour before a real business communication starts. And it's a very important question, how you're going to use this time. You will be silent, you will say nothing, and you will not be remembered. Or you will use this situation, you will get this chance to show yourself up, to show how smart you are, to show how intelligent you are, to show how interesting it can be to work with you, how it can be achieved. First, be a well-rounded person. I like this saying in English, well-rounded person, to know everything about almost everything, to know something about almost everything. Yeah. For example, you don't drink wine, but you are in a wine region. For example, my colleague from Spain, I mentioned before, she's from a region where wine is very popular. I love wine. I like drinking wine, but I'm not that good in wine industry. But when we talk, I try to mention something about new sorts of wine, about wine traditions in Ukraine, in Spain. So she's always smiling when we talk about wine because she likes this culture, she likes this industry. It's important for her. If you meet someone who loves football, yeah, I love football, for example, and if you meet someone from abroad, from other country, and you know that this person is a football fan, so ask a question about his club, about his national team, and so on. If you are going to some country, the safe topic is national achievements or a nature of this country. For example, Zambia is a beautiful country. You have amazing nature. You have quite different nature from European, yeah, from Europe. You have different climate. You have different wildlife, animals, and so on. So it's always nice to share something about your country, asking about your country, telling something about your own country, and so on and so. So it's always nice. And the final remark here: don't make statements, especially on very sensitive topics. For example, about politics. Try to be very, very um, to use some neutral expressions, or even better, ask questions. For example, I'm from Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine and killing our people, destroying our country, and so on. So, of course, I'm talking about war. I cannot ignore this question. But still, I believe that if you are from a faraway country, it might be very, very look very sensitive to mention the war or not mention the war. But of course, such things are impossible to ignore. But if we talk about politics, for example, in the United States, they had elections recently. Yeah, it was like Democrats or Republicans, Donald Trump or the Democratic Party representative. Yeah, Kamala Harris. Yeah, who gonna win? And Donald Trump won, so he is a new elected president. So I have friends who are Trump supporters. I have friends who are Biden supporters. So I should try to be very neutral here because it's their choice. Yeah. So let's try to avoid such sensitive questions here. And the final remark here is the staying open-minded. We need to understand that people are different. We look differently. Our, I don't know, appearance is different, skin color is different, our accent is different, our beliefs are different, our values are different. But it shouldn't be a problem to have a good meeting, to have business, to have friendship. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so it means that we are good people, so we can have business. Doesn't matter how we look like or how we behave if we don't break the laws, if we don't break some personal norms and values of other culture and so on. So staying open-minded is very important in cross-cultural business negotiations. I believe it's a really important thing to know and to understand. So let me stop my presentation here, and I believe that maybe you will give me some opportunity to answer your questions. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope I see that we have like 10 minutes for Q&A. And if you don't mind, I would like to pass the floor to you, to the audience now. I would be more than happy to give you some comments or remarks, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dennis. It's always a pleasure, great pleasure to hear you. Students, if you have any question, you can please come closer to the mic. Actually, we make them sit in one classroom, so they are attending your lecture from the classroom. Those who are in the on campus.
I believe that the question will be solved now.
Yes, of course. I was just wondering, meanwhile, if we have any question from the audience. I was just having one curiosity. I come to know about this cultural quotient, right? It's a new thing, right? I have never heard about this
Mhm.
cultural quotient. I've heard about, as you say, that in a progressive way, there was a time when most of the people they were talking about, intelligence quotient, and then they were talking
Yeah.
about the emotional quotient, and then they were talking about the spiritual quotient, and now this cultural quotient, right? It's very
Yeah,
interesting for me to know. If you can
exactly.
throw some light on that,
Yeah, my
maybe in African context, if you can throw some more light on that, that will be interesting.
Exactly, exactly. That's very important because it's now really a requirement if the students would take a look at the offers from the companies. So it's very widespread now, cross-cultural communication, and so on and so on. So and this CQ, it's very, very popular concept now. And actually, the recommendation how to achieve it, how to improve it is by interaction. So by reading books cannot help here too much. I mean, even business literature. I mean that you need to interact with people. Oh, Mike,
I do
yeah.
have
That's
a
interesting.
question. Hello? Hello, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes, we
Yes,
hear
you are
you.
audible. Please
Perfect.
ask.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for that wonderful presentation, quite insightful. My
Thank you.
question is do you think cultural shock has got anything, or rather, do you think ethnocentrism has got everything to do with cultural shock?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Cultural shock is very, again, it's very famous concept. Yeah, what you can feel when you are entering some new country or some new culture. Even okay, but I sometimes I'm asking my friends who are working abroad in very different countries, what kind of a cultural shock do they have? But what is interesting that people who have some experience working in several countries or dealing with several cultures, I wouldn't say that they have actual cultural shock because they need to be prepared. Because you can be shocked when you are finding yourself in a situation where something is really shocking for you, something is very, very unusual for you. But we live in a globalized world, and I believe only recently, I will tell you, maybe a couple of days ago, I read very interesting idea of a very respected colleague of mine that nowadays this cross-cultural interaction becomes more and more smooth, easier, because a lot of people, even living in very different geographical locations, they are using a lot of similar information, for example, from internet, yeah, from some media and so on. So, and this cultural shock, it might be not that shocking right now because you actually know that people in Zambia and in Ukraine, for example, we have miles, thousands of miles between our countries. But I believe that if I was present in Zambia today, I wouldn't have real shock because I would say, okay, you have some different standards of behavior, you have different, I don't know, interiors or exteriors, but still we are same people and we don't have something very, very different between us. Yeah, but still this cultural shock to avoid this phenomenon, yeah, because cultural shock is not very pleasant thing. To avoid it, you just need to get prepared, to get yourself prepared, to learn a bit about this culture, to learn a bit about these people, to call, to ask them, to watch some YouTube videos, to listen to some podcasts, to read some information. And actually, basically, you need to prepare yourself, and then you will avoid this cultural shock. But still, at the same time, one last remark, at the same time, I believe that it's even good to see some differences, because if we were absolutely the same, it would be okay, but still, it's much more interesting to when you go somewhere to learn a bit about this culture. So I believe if you invite me next time physically, you will give me some city tour and you will tell me a bit more about Zambian culture. Thank you. Hope I answered.
An excellent answer.
Thank you.
Is there anyone student in the class? Hello, is there anybody?
Oh, I see in chat. Yeah, you get it. I wish your opinion on what measurable indicators can an organization use to assess the effectiveness of cross-cultural intelligence initiatives in employee performance. Oh, that's an amazing question, but it's very, in fact, that's very hard to answer, because actually in this field, in communication field, business communication field, it's I believe that the measurable indicator are overall financial indicators of a company. For example, how to evaluate your cultural intelligence. Yeah. For example, you are responsible for international contracts of your company. You are going to abroad to, let's say, I don't know, Egypt. Yeah. And you need to sign a contract. You signed it, so it's binary. You signed it, well done. You didn't sign, you didn't do it. So, but to calculate your cultural intelligence, of course it's possible. Yeah, of course it's possible. But my personal opinion that that's not really rational to do, because how can you evaluate, are you good enough in talking to strangers, in dealing with foreigners? Yeah, you are good or you are not good enough. So you are 24 and I am 21 and Dr. Raghvendra is 57. So, but it's very flexible. It's very subjective, not objective, but subjective, because I don't believe in the need of these measurements in this field. At the same time, I gave you some numbers on Hofstede model. Yeah, so they actually do some survey in different countries and they evaluate. It's very popular to put the numbers to some cultures. It's very good to compare the countries. Like you said, Zambia is 30 and India is 51. So you are more short-term oriented than Indians. But your question is very important for organization, for management of organization. As a manager, I need to know who is the most efficient worker here. Yeah, I need to give some mark. For example, you have 20, I have 15, so you are better than me. But in real life, it's easier to calculate in sales. Yeah, it's easy. You are selling for, I don't know, $1,000 per month, and I'm selling for $500 per month. So you are twice better than me. But in cultural intelligence, it's very complicated to evaluate a person, I believe. So that's your, as a manager, that's your personal task to evaluate your workers and to say that this guy is the most suitable guy for this assignment. So I should send him to meet international partners or potential clients from abroad. So I believe it's very hard. But thank you for your question. It's a very smart question.
I'm actually having two questions to ask.
Please.
What's the difference between feminine and masculinity, and what does it mean when your culture is being categorized on being feminine? And the second question is, how can misunderstandings due to cultural differences be minimized? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the second question, how they can be minimized. Of course, we have differences. We have differences. It's normal. It's accepted. But at the same time, to minimize them, why should we minimize them? To have our business negotiations more smooth, more comfortable for all, to achieve the result we need. For example, we need to sign the contract. You need to sell product, I need to buy product, we need to sign this contract. And to minimize these differences, as I said, both sides need to prepare. I am Ukrainian. I need to learn something about Zambia. You are Zambia, you need to learn something about Ukraine. When we meet at the negotiation table, I need to behave a bit more unusual for me, but usual for you. And you need to behave more unusual for you and more usual for me. So we need to make these differences minimal or smoother, yeah. But at the same time, when we have some differences that are pleasant for each other, so it's normal. For example, I'm a very cold person, not me, but someone, yeah, very cold person. I'm very formal, very boring, and so on. And you are very funny, very emotional guy. And when I see that you are more emotional than me, and I like it, so you don't need to minimize it. You need to show that you are different. So it's nice. A lot of people like to work with Africans or with Southern people in Europe, with Spanish people, because they are more open, more warm, and so on. And for Northern people, it's pleasant. So you don't have to behave like Northerners if you are a warm person. But at the same time, if some of your gestures, like one example in the chat, if, for example, I'm from the culture that prefer to have a distance, physical distance, and you at the beginning, you start to hug me and, I don't know, kiss me on the cheek, and I don't like it, so you better don't do it, because it might be a problem for our future business negotiations. So you need to prepare for conversation and to really minimize something that might be rude for your partner. For you, it's not rude. For him, it's rude. So, okay, I will not do it. And the first question is about, can you remind, please, the first question? The cultural similarities. If I'm not wrong, so it was about similarities, how to deal with people from similar cultures, or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you are dealing with a person from a similar culture, first of all, I would like to say that even I believe that you, as Zambians, you will understand and know it better than me that even inside one country, there are people within one nationality, there are different people. Of course, yeah, we cannot say that all Zambians are the same. Inside Zambian culture, you can find someone who will be more short-term oriented, more long-term oriented, more hierarchical, someone who would like to show himself as a big boss, and someone who prefer to be very democratic and to work in a team with his employees. So even inside one nationality, don't use these stereotypes. Learn more about specific person. Learn more about him from joint friends, from social media, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from Instagram, from his personal pages somewhere. Learn something about person, because you cannot say that if the person is of the same nationality as you, he will be the same as you are. So it might be absolutely different person. And about globalization, one last remark here, that it depends on the level of involvement of this person into international context. For example, if I'm Ukrainian who has experience in, I don't know, dozens of nationalities, dozens of cultures, I will be this kind of a person. And if my friend only works in Ukraine and have never met a foreigner, he will have different style of behavior. So, and the same about India, Zambia, Britain, Sweden, whatever. So you need to prepare for the specific person, not just the nationality. Thank you, Doug. And some comments in chat. I wish you an excellent presentation. Thank you, Hilda. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions and your attitude. I was wondering, what role does nonverbal communication play in cross-cultural interaction? Huge role, absolutely important thing. Nonverbal communication is very, very important, because I believe that nonverbal communication can be, once again, can help or can be a problem, because in lots of cultures, for example, let's say Indian culture or Japanese, let's say Japanese culture, nonverbal communication plays a huge role. For example, the Japanese people, they are very, very, very formal in their communication, and they can take a very long pauses. If you say something to a Japanese partner, he can be silent for some time. And for such emotional guy as me, it might be a problem or at least a question. Why is he silent? Did I say something wrong? Did I say something offensive? What's wrong? But for them, it's just normal to be very, very calm. And again, about this physical contact, for example, this person can feel offended if I hug or shake even hand to this person in not a polite way. And about nonverbal communication, it's very interesting because in some societies, let's say Southern American societies, they prefer to talk with their hands, with their head, with their body. So they're very, very flexible and very, very emotional. So if I'm not that emotional, it might be uncomfortable for this person. But if I try to copy this person, to behave like this person, it's a question for me. I don't know. For someone, it might be very, very pleasant. So this person might like it. So, okay, this guy is just the same as me. But for some other person, it might be very strange and it might be not comfortable because this person knows that, okay, I am this kind of a person, but why does this stranger behave like me? So maybe it's something wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's bad. But in my opinion, I always strive to behave a bit, like I said, a bit like this person and to show that I'm okay, not the same guy as you, but I'm almost the same guy as you. So why can't we be like good partners, good friends, and so on? I show some respect by doing something, at least something similar as you, not copying you, but doing something like you prefer to do. So I hope like that. By the way, I can't help using this opportunity to invite you to my YouTube channel. I sent you the link in the chat. I hope it's okay. If you are interested in different cultures and different communication styles, you can click on this link if you have access now to the chat, and you can click it, subscribe, watch videos, ask questions to the speakers and so on. So I hope it will be useful for some of you because when I talked about Southern America, it reminded me my colleague from Ecuador. She said that they are very emotional and they cannot help talking with their whole body. And I believe my colleague from Colombia, from also Southern American country, he said in his video almost the same. So it's their continental similarities, I believe. So thank you very much for your questions. If I answered all, I hope yes. If you have more, please, or I don't know what about timing, Dr. Raghvendra.
Thank you very much, Dr. Danes. It was a wonderful, it's always a treat to hear your views on particularly cross-cultural aspects, right? Friends, let me tell you that Dr. Danes is an excellent, not only as a person, right, but he's an excellent researcher and he's an excellent expert of cross-cultural aspect of the business organizations, whether it be communication, maybe the organizational management also. Maybe a couple of questions with the students were highlighting about, maybe individual personality can play, as Dr. Dennis highlighted about that. Maybe individual personality also plays an important role, it's not always the collective culture of a country, right? Sometimes the individual personality of a human being also plays a role, that are what kind of precautions you need to take when you are talking to somebody or negotiating for the business purposes to somebody, right? Particularly when you are talking to somebody who comes from the culture you are coming from. With this, it's a wonderful and it's a privilege for me to propose the formal vote of thanks now. I'm really thankful to my management, my Vice Chancellor, my Deputy Vice Chancellor here in Texila University Zambia, and my lot of sincere thanks to the Global Office in India also. They are organizing all these kind of things and providing the technical support here so that we can invite the experts from across the globe and they can talk and add value to our students' development. I'm thankful for the IT team here in Zambia. They arranged all these things so that our students can sit in one room and they can join and get benefited of this expert lecture from Dr. Danis. My lot of sincere thanks to my friend, my colleague, Dr. Danis, right? He's kind enough whenever I need his help, he's kind enough to accept my invitation and spare time from his busy schedule to deliver the talk whenever I requested him. Thank you very much, Dr. Danis. And I also appreciate the efforts put in by the students. So students, keep it up. Whenever such kind of lectures are being organized, you please feel free to talk to the guest. Like, I am really happy and appreciate that some of you at least try to talk to Dr. Danis. Dr. Danis has a rich experience in cross-cultural aspects. It is very important now because it's not only about your progress in one country, right? Now, because the world is getting more and more connected, one small incident happening somewhere might disrupt the global supply chain. So you need to interact, you need to communicate, you need to coordinate with people from the different cultural backgrounds. Possibly, if Dr. Dennis would agree, maybe in the future also, we would love to invite him to deliver one more lecture so that some of the details which has not been discussed due to time constraints today, maybe he can spare time and can allow our students to get a lot of benefit from his interactions. We'll bother you once again, Dr. Dennis. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, friends.
Thank you very much, Dr. Efendra.
Thank you.
You are so kind. Yeah. And thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ukraine, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.